hello, hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. Hope you're wavy. Hope you. Wait, what? Hope you're well. Hope you're swell. Hope you're wavy. Hope you. Hope you're good. Hope you're amazing. 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 Hope you're good. Good, 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 good. Hope you're amazing. Hope you're nice. I remember mentioning the story of the woman who's suing her boyfriend for dumping her. So they were in a 10-year relationship and he left. I think she wanted to settle down and he was like, nah, I still have a lot of years of freedom, so I'm gonna leave, babes. Peace. Which, I don't agree with that. I think that's horrible. I think that's selfish. But hey, it's kind of the times we're in, and we've allowed things to get to this point. We've eroded a lot of the protections against stuff like this. People railed against purity, people railed against chastity, and this is what you're left with, these non-committal relationships in which you can have sex with people and they can just leave you high and dry. Like, we fought for this. As a society, we fought for this. Like, we actually fought for this. When we say things like don't have sex before marriage, we get laughed at, right? The reason why we say don't have sex before marriage is it leads to situations like this where you can have the benefits of being married without actually being married, and then someone can use you and leave. It's part of the reason why we say don't have sex before marriage. There's other reasons, but it's a big one. But we rejected traditional wisdom and we're paying the price. But I'm also struck by the lack of self-awareness. It's like, guys, here's the thing, and this is a genuine question for women in general. Like, what do y'all want from us? Because if we're equals, if men and women are equals, then you have to understand, if a man did this, if a man tried to sue his girl for quote-unquote taking his best years, no one would take him seriously. We would laugh him off. When a man gets divorced by his wife because she decided that she deserves better, that I've outgrown him, I got a better job, I'm earning more money than him, yada, 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 I feel like I can just do better, which happens a lot, by the way. It happens more than you think. Especially these days when women are, I think in a lot of countries you're seeing news about women getting more degrees and getting better salaries in certain fields and yada, yada, yada. It's becoming more and more of a thing, right? So women are earning their husbands. It's becoming more common. They leave. A lot of them leave because they decide they deserve better. I didn't know what I was doing when I married him. Now that I'm in a better position, things have changed. I can do better than this guy. And it's nothing personal, but one. And they'll do this when they have kids with the guy, when so much has been sacrificed for the sake of their marriage and yada, yada, yada. They'll leave. And as a man, you're expected to just take that on the chin, like, and deal with that. Just level up, bro. Go to the gym, like, figure it out, get money, and yeah, tough luck. That's kind of that's all the man really gets. What, you can't sue her. That's not an option. There's not really much you can do except firm that, except take it on the chin. It's just, the question is, why do women think they deserve special treatment? If we're equals, if we're genuinely equals, then you can't play this game. It's just absurd. It's just absurd. Like, you can't sue someone for dumping you. You chose to be with them. You accepted the risk that things won't work out. That's kind of part of... That's part of what you accept when you get into a relationship with someone. That things won't work out. That there's a chance things won't work out. there are certain things you can do to mitigate this. You can go to church and try to find someone in church, but people don't want to do that. They think that's lame. Or maybe it's just not the environment for you. I don't know. Some people are not willing to wait until they're married, so they're not willing to do that. So you kind of erode certain protections when you make that choice. There's just this general disdain towards tradition, and the question is just like, okay, what do you want then? If you're not willing to take any of these steps to protect yourself, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to situations like this. So, okay, let's say you're young and your best years are still ahead of you, right? At least in terms of your fertility. How can you avoid a situation where you get with some guy and then he has his fun with you and then leaves you when he's decided that he's done? How can you avoid that? Well, traditionally, there's a few ways to avoid that. One of the biggest ones being you lock it up. You say, okay, look, we're young. Our culture incentivizes us to have sex together whenever we want, but I think it would be prudent for us to hold off on that and to see if we're serious about each other. And if you decide that you're serious, you should propose. And then and only then will I marry you. But I must let you know you don't have that much time. I'll give you a year, maybe two, depending on how young you are. You have to also account for finances and stuff. You might need a bit of time to figure out his situation so that he can be in a good position to marry you. And then that's also a risk you're taking. You're taking a chance on him, which I understand is a risk, so you might not want to take that chance. So you might say, I don't care about your situation. I'm giving you a year, maybe two. After that, I have to move on. Sorry. You might not say it that way because that sounds harsh, but that's the sentiment, right? That's the general idea behind it. And if you think you're willing to give him more time, then that's the risk you take. And then it's up to him to decide, okay, am I willing to put up with this? Me personally, I would actually like if a girl was that way, where, she's not a prude. She's not a prude. Guys don't want to be with prudish, like prude in the sense that once you're married, it's still the same thing where she's still not sleeping with you. You want her to want you. You want her to obviously have that sexual enthusiasm, but I don't mind going the distance in that initial phase where we're just getting to know each other, because I actually want the romantic side of love. I actually want to have that intimacy with someone, that emotional intimacy. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking. I was in a situation where the girl I was talking to, she only wanted to interact sexually. She wasn't really great at talking. The conversations were kind of boring, but she was always enthusiastic when I'd make, sexual advances and stuff. But this was like over text, so like not actual sex, but video calls and stuff. I'm not proud of it. But I did notice the difference in enthusiasm when I'd want to just talk normally versus when I'd want us to, get a bit sexy. And yeah, it wasn't nice because I was like, man, I can't talk to this girl. I really can't just have a normal conversation that's nice, that we were cracking jokes and getting to know each other, she doesn't care. And I just kept wondering to myself, like, wouldn't it be amazing? I'd much rather prefer a girl that's just like, listen, I'm not trying to do anything with you. I'm just trying to get to know you. I'd actually prefer that over someone who's just using me for getting their nut. I'd much rather be with a girl that is invested emotionally, When you have that sort of dynamic, you put sex to the side and you start to figure out, like, do we actually like each other? Like, do we actually like who we are as people, so that when we're not having sex, we still like each other? That's very, 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 very important. And you learn a lot, you become more decisive a lot more quickly when you deprive yourself of those other accommodations, those other luxuries. Sex has a way of kind of distracting you and making you look past certain flaws and glaring issues. When you don't have that thing to fall back on, it's like, we'll just have makeup sex and it'll be fine. It's like, when you don't have all of that, it's like, it's genuinely that you have to kind of contend with the person, like, who are they and what do I like about them, seriously. So that's one thing I would say you can do to avoid the scenario, is like, make sure you're not sleeping with him too early on. Some people eventually cave to the pressure, passion takes over. But even in those cases, you would hope that at least you've determined that you've had a good period of time where you've like spent time figuring out the person, like, this is a good person for me. You'd hope that at least, if you're gonna do it, just at least, like, make sure you're compatible, man. And then things like, getting to know who this person's family is, who the friends are, because the person is the company they keep. Is he hanging out with guys that are constantly out and about, being promiscuous, yada yada yada? Because then that gives you an indication of his behavior, because if he's around them a lot of the time, they want their boy to do what they do, and they're not going to question him if he's trying to cheat on you and all these sort of things. They're going to encourage him to do these things, because that's just kind of the mindset they're in. So be very mindful of who his friends are. If he doesn't have friends who are focused, who are also looking to settle down and whatnot, likelihood is he's not either. He's not that guy either, he's one of them. I think it's important to be with a man who loves God, who fears God, who follows the Lord, because that'll give you a good sense of his morality. Because obviously Christianity, it teaches us certain things, and we live our lives in a certain way. So you would want a man who subscribes to that ethos. I think it's a good thing. Even if he's quote-unquote culturally Christian, it's better than nothing, right? You want to be with someone who's genuinely Christian. I think there's so many benefits to that. He'll take good care of you, I'm telling you, man. Christian men, the ones who are sincere, at least, they'll take good care of you. Because it's not subjective morality. It's not morality that suits his purposes. It's just like, no, this is what the Lord says. So I'll try my best to stick by. We're human. We make mistakes. We're not going to do everything right, but you want someone who has a good moral foundation, not something that he just redefines when it suits him. He rewrites the rules when it's to his benefit. So that's another protection you can take, is just getting familiar with who he surrounds himself with, who his friends are, who his family is, and yeah, eventually you want to meet his parents, you want to meet his siblings if he has any, like just know how he was raised and what he's constantly being exposed to, and then his values, what does he believe in, and you figure all of this out, and then you make the decision of whether you're going to stick around or not. So when you're a woman, you have less time on your hands. You can be 30 something and still be frolicking, still be doing dumb stuff, and settle down at a later stage. You don't have that luxury. You need to figure it out earlier than he does. So you need to be very scrutinous, pay attention, so that you don't have your time wasted. It's sad. It's sad when you hear stories of women being in these like long ass relationships only for the guy to leave them in their late 30s or whatnot. It's horrible, man. It's sad, but at the same time, hey man, this is the world we're in. Men, oftentimes, when things happen to us, no one cares. No one gives a damn. Just take it on the chin. So that's what it means to be equal. Women love to place responsibility at the feet of men, right? Like this is the man's fault. This is the man's fault. This is the man's fault. Are we equals or not? Because if we're equals, then it's like, be quiet. Deal with it. Deal with it. There's this woman, what's her? Nora Vincent. Very famous story. If you haven't heard it, it sounds too good to be true. It sounds like some incel's dream, right? It just sounds like it's too convenient for the arguments a lot of men have been making. And I say incel's dream in quotation marks, so that's how a lot of people phrase it. I don't think that way, but basically Nora Vincent in 2006, I don't know when she decided to do this, she's like, what is it like being a man actually? Let me go undercover as a dude to know what it's like to live as a man. So she actually did this. This is a true story, guys. I actually read up on it. This is very real. You can look it up yourself. Just Google the story of Nora Vincent. She got a makeup artist, got a vocal coach, she hit the gym, she did a lot to transform her appearance and her mannerisms, and I guess she successfully infiltrated male society. I'm sure there are some guys who picked up like there's something off about this person, but for the most part she flew under the radar and quote unquote lived as a man, and immediately she started to notice the difference. So a few things she noticed is that men often have to suppress their emotions. They are not allowed to express emotions. Women do this thing where they say, I want a man who's expressive. I want a man who shares his feelings. He can cry in front of me. He can do this, he can do that. This is what a lot of girls will say. What a lot of men have realized is that when they are vulnerable like that in front of their women, it gets used against them. For example, you're vulnerable with a girl in a conversation about something you're insecure about. When y'all have an argument next time, she is 100% going to bring that up and use it against you. Many men have talked about this. You have a moment where you feel safe with her and you divulge some insecurity of yours, yada yada. At a later point, when you've forgotten about that moment, she uses it against you in an argument when it's advantageous to kind of poke at you. Humans do this. It's an ugly way that we fight with each other. It happens. And it's a learning moment for him that I'm never sharing with her ever again, like that sort of stuff, because I didn't think she'd use it in that way. And there's also a thing that happens where if you cry in front of your girl, she loses some attraction to you. Not always. I guess it depends on the context. I know that when men have children, there's a drop in testosterone. They become more emotional and they're more prone to crying and stuff. So I've heard it quite common that when men become fathers, they end up crying quite a bit. I have a friend who is a father, and he was talking about how he had a moment where he was just in his daughter's room, hugging her teddy bear and just bawling, just shedding tears, because he just was feeling emotional. And it happens. So, context does matter, but there are many instances as a man where when something happens, you're not allowed to be emotional. You're not allowed to show weakness, because then to her it signifies that you're not a capable provider, you're not a capable protector, and she dries up. She's not as attracted to you anymore. It happens a lot. Girls can say, no, it's not true. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. And many guys have talked about this. So, Nora noticed that men generally are very emotionally depressed, and will say that it's a result of toxic masculinity and all these other things. No, I think it's just how society has. Women do this as well. They treat men this way as well. They expect this from men as well. Like, shut up, man up. Don't feel too much. You're supposed to be stoic. So it's not just men who reinforce this, women do too. And that's a fact. So that was one tough thing she noticed, is the lack of emotional flexibility. And then, loneliness is another thing that she noticed. Like, women have a lot of support groups. A lot of men don't. A lot of men are very lonely. It's very common. You see videos of boys will be boys and boys hang out with squads and whatnot. And I don't know how common that is versus how uncommon it is, but I know for a lot of dudes, especially as you get older, you don't really have friends like that. That's the case for a lot of men. You don't really have friends, and you have to shoulder a lot of the burdens of life by yourself. You have colleagues at work that you might get drinks with after work and stuff like that, but a lot of men don't really have those sort of support groups and whatnot. A lot of men deal with loneliness, but you don't talk about it, you don't express it, because no one cares, no one will feel sorry for you. You just have to handle it. It's very normal, and it's more common than we talk about. Again, I'm not going to say how common it is, because I don't know. I haven't really done research on that, but I've seen it. I'm an introvert. I'm very I don't know if I'm antisocial, but I keep to myself, so I'll include myself in that bracket. But I think for me, I kind of prefer it this way. I'm not very social anyway, but I don't know. It's hard to say, because this is all I really know. So, and I feel like it's just the way I am. But yeah, she noticed that. That was a big thing she noticed. There was something else, because there were 3 main points that I read about. I'm sure she noticed other things as well. What else did she notice? I don't know. She just noticed that it was hard. It was a hard existence, a lonely existence. No one really cares. There's not as many accommodations that are made for you. People aren't as willing to listen to you talk about whatever's bothering you, yada, yada, yada. And things got so bad for her after she had that experience where she was playing male for a little while. And this is sad, but she got depressed and she killed herself. And it sounds like I'm making that up. Like, it's like, no, guys. She became extremely depressed. She had to check herself into a psychiatric ward, a psychiatric hospital. And after like years of depression, in 2022, she killed herself. People will say, was it because of the man thing? That's when it started. That's when the depression started. She was documenting these things. She committed herself to a psychiatric ward after that whole experience, and that's when the battle with depression started and accumulated in her offing herself. So you do that information what you will. It's hard. It's hard being a man. And I'm saying all of that to say, when women are saying they want to be our equals, when they say we can do everything men can and better, men are obsolete, men are trash, men are useless, da 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 da. When that's your position, I mean, okay, you have to be consistent then. You have to hold that position. You can't then keep asking men to come save you. You can't keep, we need men, we're all the real men, we're all the strong. Like, I thought men are trash. I thought men are useless. I thought you don't need us. And I thought you're our equals. If you're our equals, then why do we need to treat you specially, you know? We don't, is the answer to that. It's a rhetorical question. So, if you want all this to end, I think we have to have a return to tradition in which men are allowed to lead the relationships again. Not only when it suits the woman. You know, women will say, I'm okay with the man leading me, but I won't let him lead me if I don't agree with what he's saying. So it's like this thing of like, I'll take his direction when I agree, and then when I don't agree, I won't take his direction. So it's this conditional following where you only agree when you agree, which doesn't make sense, because then you're not really submitted, you're not really following him. Like, how can I be a leader, but the people I'm leading only follow me when they want to? Because I'm not the leader. Like, part of being a leader, it means people follow you even when they might have questions, even when they don't necessarily agree, but you're in charge, you have the final say at the end of the day. That's what it means to be a leader, right? Part of what it means to be a leader. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with being a leader as well. And that's what we're saying to y'all. Like, if you want to be leaders as well, okay, then you have to accept the responsibility that comes with being a leader. Your feelings don't always matter. You don't get special treatment, and sometimes hard things happen and you just have to take it on the chin and keep it pushing. That's what it means to be our equals. But you know, I'll say all this, and I don't know if it will land. I don't know if people really grasp what I'm trying to say, but that's the reality, though. And nothing's gonna change. This issue will persist until people accept this reality. So it's up to y'all, man. It's up to y'all how you're gonna move, the choices you're gonna make. I'm just saying, like, this is the society we're in now, and it'd be in your best interest to accept that and move accordingly. If you want certain outcomes, you can't do what everyone else is doing. So you can't act the way everyone else is acting and expect different things. You're gonna have to make different choices to get different results. So I think the society would just be so much better if people waited until they're married, if people stuck to their vows. So it's like, okay, if I'm gonna marry this person, I'm gonna stay with this person. I'm not gonna just divorce them. It's like, I made the choice to marry them, I'm gonna stay with them. Obviously, if your life is at risk, if you're being abused, if he's being unfaithful, there are certain, like, very few, very particular accommodations for divorce. And then everything else is just, you have to deal with that. You can't just leave. You chose to be with this person. Honor your decision. You made a vow. Your word should mean something. It's that simple. So lock it up. Honor your marriage vows. And yeah, before all that, like, just be very scrutinous of who you get mixy with. I think society would be much better if we all practice that as a collective. Because, you know, when you're practicing it by yourself, it can be very difficult because yeah, the conditions just make it so hard for you to stick to that. But when we're all doing it together, I think it becomes easier and easier and easier for us to fall into those patterns. But anyway, y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. You know, that's a great thing. I'm going to do this video. So I'm not doing this individual watching. So I'm making holy and you can guide me on the path towards peace, prosperity, and purpose. Thank you for blessing this person with wonderful people in life. Love them, take care of them, and bring the absolute best out of them. Thank you for maintaining the ones that are there to do the same thing. Thank you for blessing this person with love and marriage and sustain their love and marriage. Making very, very happy. Thank you for blessing this person with a spirit of gratitude so they can give thanks for all the wonderful things in their life. So by giving thanks and finding peace, contentment, and trying to give them more blessings. Let your presence be around this person. Bless it. Let your God, let your real, let your love. Let yours be there for them. Good health, long life, and happiness. So this person who is here about. Amen. I pray in Jesus' name. I pray. Amen. Amen. And amen.